Hello guys and welcome back to another Fan Factory Friday. Now this is a big one and we're going to try and squeeze it into sub 10 minutes. So if you do enjoy this video, please drop a thumbs up, and if you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe. Now today we are checking out Hilux's save, and with almost 1,000 hours in this particular game, it's pretty massive. And though he's spent a lot of time building up this factory, everything has led up to this moment, this climax, where he can now start to progress out and build a Megafactory. And yes, as I said, start to build a Megafactory. Up until this point, he's prepped the required manufacturers and started storing all the products he needs to really get this build started. And on the outside, it's really easy just to say he's blanketed the map with foundations, but there is a lot more going on, and I have to say, I'm excited. You can see that the storage containers are littered around the map. What surprises me here is that with this though, is that all these containers are so far apart, and I presume he actually had factories here which he's now dismantled and just left the storage units in their locations. But it would be great for him to kind of prep a universal storage hub so that when he's working on his Megafactory, he's only running back to that single spot rather than having to go all over the map to find the items he needs. You've probably noticed by now that Hilux prefers to cover up the surroundings, and if you're lucky, there'll be a few areas partially revealed or surrounded by glass walls that show off that natural architecture and just add a little detail to it. And though I prefer a more natural look, this style of build actually has a few uses, as for example, you know your build restrictions, and you also have a blank canvas which you can show off with your style. It's also very apparent that he's going to be using trains for the logistics, and I appreciate that along with the foundations, the train lines are the second thing he thinks about. This is great, as if you don't plan your logistics first, you'll struggle to find a neat way of building that connects the factories all together. A good way to look at logistics is the lifeline, the veins of your factory, and so it's necessary to have them thought out prior to building Megafactories. Also note that his railway placing is pretty sweet, and I love this central crossing. However, he may have some issues, as unless they've updated the railway system, my trains didn't work very well on tracks that split into 3 ways. Instead, you need to stagger the railway splits. I also love how he's running the rails along the cliff sides, but he also has a very beautiful way of building on the foundations as well. Take a look at this really cool tunnel feel that he's developed, which reminds me almost of the Vipers leaving Battlestar Galactica. It's a really nice idea, and maybe that's just me, but it's something that potentially you may see me using in my factories now. Also, his use of the foundation frames as supports look great, and speaking of rail support, looking at the main factory, he also runs supports along the track, where he also runs pylons, allowing him to bring power to areas without needing to have a train station nearby. Away from the factory for a moment, he spotlights his motor love with a little museum spotlighting vehicles and the turbo motor, which looks great. It is something I haven't seen in a game prior. Also, the conveyor behind the glass showing off items looks great. It's a fantastic homage to the motor vehicle. Checking out the manufacturing lines, you can see how he may run his factory with endless manifold lines, but equally, every now and then you might come across this unique building, such as this smelting platform, which fully encloses 90 smelters and looks great, although he may need to upgrade the belts. And he also has some great assembly designs, which I look forward to actually seeing in action. Speaking of assembly lines in action, he's currently using this refinery build to produce the turbo fuel required to run his factory. And I really dig his industrial feel to it, and I must admit the fuel plants look pretty great next to it. It's clear he has some huge plans, but he said that until he produces his 19 nuclear power plants, he won't run his factory, as he doesn't want to be restricted by power, which makes it clear that he's planning something big for the save, and I would very much like to cover this again when it's further along the process. And speaking of this process, if we quickly head to the plains, we can see some of the factories that are still in action. And I believe these are helping to develop the nuclear fuel rods. So in this factory, we have a much tighter feel to it, which I like, and it's generating or producing stators and encased industrial beams. And then if we head across to another factory, which is fully enclosed, we can see his approach to tiered manufacturing, which is producing everything needed to construct AI limiters, which, along with the encased industrial beams and the stators we just saw, are brought up to this central factory where he's producing what's needed to develop the nuclear fuel rods for the 19 nuclear power plants. It's a really well thought out factory, and it's the base for which he is building his Megafactory. And I must admit, I am excited to see what he comes up with. But anyway, guys, I am going to have to leave it here, but special thanks goes to Hilinux for trusting me with his save. Now, if you did like his build and are excited to see what he's going to do with his Megafactory, then please do drop a thumbs up. And if you want to see more, don't forget to subscribe. Anyway, guys, we are going to leave it there, like I said. So until next time, thank you so much for watching, and as always, ciao for now.